still remember that night like it's burned into my brain. The sound of my keys trembling in my hand, the faint echo of my footsteps in the empty parking lot, and that feeling that someone was watching me. At first, I told myself it was nothing, just paranoia. You know that strange sense you get when you think someone's following you, but when you turn around, there's no one there? But that night, I wasn't wrong. It was 10:47 p.m. I had just finished a late shift at the restaurant and was walking toward my car, the last one in the lot. The air was quiet, too quiet. The only light came from a flickering lamppost near the dumpster. As I unlocked my car, I heard it, the crunch of gravel, slow, deliberate steps behind me. "Excuse me," a man's voice said softly. I turned. A tall guy in a black hoodie stood about 20 feet away, hands in his pockets. He smiled faintly like he was trying not to look threatening. "Do you know what time the restaurant closes?" he asked. I froze. My uniform clearly showed I worked there. It's closed," I said, trying to sound calm. He nodded slowly, then tilted his head. "Oh, right. You're the last one out then, huh?" That one sentence made my stomach drop. I didn't respond. I just got into my car and locked the doors. But when I started the engine, I saw his reflection in the rearview mirror. He was still standing there, smiling, watching. I drove off fast. I told myself it was over, but it wasn't. The next morning, I found something tucked under my windshield wiper, a small note written in black ink. "You looked scared last night. Don't be. I just wanted to talk." My heart stopped. I told my manager, who said it was probably a prank. But 3 nights later, I caught him again, standing across the street from the restaurant, just watching me through the glass. I started parking a few blocks away and leaving with coworkers. Still, I'd see him, sometimes in the reflection of a window, sometimes in the rearview mirror of my car, always at a distance, but always there. Then, things got worse. One night I came home to find my front door unlocked. Nothing stolen, nothing broken, but there was a folded napkin on my kitchen counter. It said, "You don't have to hide. I know where you live now." I called the police immediately. They filed a report, but there was no evidence of forced entry. They said it might have been someone I knew, but I didn't know anyone like that. After that, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the house, every car passing by outside, I'd jump. I started leaving lights on, checking locks 5, 6 times a night. Then one evening, around 1 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Him. Nice blue pajamas. My blood ran cold. I walked to the window, slowly pulled the curtain, and there he was, standing in the street under the same flickering lamppost, just staring up at my window. Everywhere I went, I'd see him, or thought I did. A man in a hoodie at the grocery store, someone walking behind me at night, a car idling too long near my driveway. I started to lose my mind. Then one morning, I woke up to a sound outside, the faint hum of my car engine. I ran out and saw him sitting in the driver's seat of my car. He didn't look surprised. He didn't even move. He just smiled through the windshield, lifted his phone, and took a picture of me. By the time police arrived, he was gone again. But this time, they found something. Inside the car was a torn piece of paper with my full name, address, and a list of places I'd been that week. My gym, my sister's house, even the exact time I left work each night. That's when they took it seriously. The police traced him down a few weeks later. He was a 32-year-old man named Evan Myers, a former delivery driver who used to drop off food to our restaurant months earlier. He'd been fired after making uncomfortable comments to staff. When they searched his apartment, they found hundreds of photos of me, printed and pinned to his wall, screenshots of my Instagram, my Facebook, even photos taken through my windows. He'd been following me for almost a year. The most disturbing part? He kept a journal. In it, he wrote about me like we were in a relationship. Every entry began with "Dear Emily" and ended with "See you soon." He even wrote the dates of when he'd visit, those nights I saw him outside. He had planned them. Evan was arrested and charged with felony stalking and unlawful entry. He's in prison now, but even after all this time, I still can't park my car without looking over my shoulder. Every shadow feels like a person. Every sound feels like footsteps. Because when someone watches you that closely for that long, you start to wonder if they ever really stop. You never really notice your neighbors until one of them starts watching you. At least, that's what happened to me. It started last spring when I moved into a small apartment complex in Dayton, Ohio. The place was quiet, cheap, and honestly, I thought I'd lucked out. I lived alone, 3rd floor, apartment 3C. My next-door neighbor was a man in his 40s named Paul who lived in 3B. Friendly at first glance, clean haircut, always in a plain gray hoodie. He helped me carry boxes in the day I moved, told me he worked from home. "If you ever need anything, just knock," he said. I didn't think much of it, but I remember the first time I felt off. It was late one night, maybe 2 weeks after moving in. I was brushing my teeth when I heard something strange, a faint clicking sound, like a camera shutter. I paused. The sound came again. It was coming from my bathroom window, the one facing the narrow space between our 2 apartments. When I looked, I caught a quick flash of light. I froze. My mind raced. Maybe it was a reflection, maybe headlights outside. I convinced myself it was nothing and closed the blinds tight. But from that night on, I kept seeing things. Subtle things. The door to my mailbox left slightly open. My welcome mat moved. A faint knock on my wall late at night, like someone tapping with their fingers. 3 slow taps. Tap, tap, tap. At first I thought maybe it was the pipes or the building settling. But then I noticed something new. My doorbell camera kept going off. Random motion alerts at 2 or 3 a.m. Each time I'd check the footage, and there he was, Paul, standing in the hallway barefoot, staring at my door, not knocking, not saying anything, just standing there for minutes, and walking away. The first time I saw it, I almost dropped my phone. I showed the footage to the landlord the next day. He said he'd talk to him. That was it. For a few weeks, nothing happened. I started to relax again. Then one morning I woke up to find an envelope slid under my door. Inside was a single Polaroid photo. It was me, sleeping. My hair spread across my pillow, the same blanket, same position. It was my bedroom. I called the police instantly. They came, took the photo, and questioned Paul. But since there was no direct proof it was him, and no signs of forced entry, there wasn't much they could do. After that, I installed extra locks, motion lights, even nailed my windows shut. I thought I'd scared him off. But things only got worse. A few nights later, I woke up at 1:47 a.m. to the sound of breathing. Not mine, not from a phone or a vent. Actual breathing, slow and heavy, coming from inside my apartment. I grabbed a flashlight and crept into the living room. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. And that's when I saw him. Paul, crouched in the corner behind my couch. His eyes wide open, pupils blown. He wasn't even hiding, just sitting there, holding something small and black. A camera. I screamed so loud my throat burned. He didn't move, didn't flinch. He just smiled, a slow, twitching grin, and whispered, "You move a lot when you sleep." I bolted for the door, ran to the hallway, and pounded on my neighbor's door across the hall until they let me in. They called 911 immediately. When the police arrived, Paul was gone. My apartment door was wide open. They found his fingerprints everywhere. My doorknob, window frame, even inside my fridge. The creepiest part? There was no sign of forced entry. He had a key. Turned out he'd made a duplicate when he helped me move in. When they searched his apartment next door, they found what nightmares are made of. They also found a USB drive with recorded videos. Hours of footage from a hidden camera planted in my smoke detector. He'd been filming me for months. But that wasn't the worst part. In one of his notes, written in neat block letters, he'd written, 3B and 3C should be one unit, one bed, one life, soon. He was planning something that would have ended badly if I hadn't caught him that night. Paul was arrested that morning and charged with felony stalking, trespassing, and unlawful surveillance. The officer said he'd been reported in another building before for disturbing behavior, but never charged. I moved out the same week. I didn't even take most of my stuff. I couldn't stay another night knowing he had been there, watching me live, eat, sleep. But what haunts me the most isn't the photos or the videos. It's something I noticed months later, when police returned some of my recovered belongings. They handed me a small, dusty photo frame that had been found in his closet. It was a picture of me from my first day moving in, the one he helped take when I said, "Thanks, neighbor." I was smiling. He was in the background, blurry but visible, watching me from the very start. You ever get that feeling when you realize someone's watching you, but you can't prove it? That was my life for 3 straight months, and it all started with a package. It was last summer. I had just moved into a new house, quiet neighborhood, cul-de-sac, the kind of place where you finally feel safe. I ordered a few things online, some decor, a lamp, nothing special. The delivery guy showed up a few days later, mid-30s, short beard, friendly enough. His name tag said Rick. "Got a few boxes for you, ma'am," he said, smiling. I thanked him, signed, and that was it. Or so I thought. Then the next week, another delivery. This time a small box with a heart-shaped keychain. Again, my name, my address, no sender, and the same driver. "Looks like someone's got a secret admirer," he said jokingly. I laughed it off, but inside, something felt wrong. He was always too friendly, standing a little too close, holding eye contact just a bit too long. It was a Saturday night when I realized something was very, very off. I was watching TV when I heard the sound of footsteps on my porch. My motion light flicked on. Through the window, I saw him, Rick, the delivery guy, standing there. No uniform, no package, just standing there looking at my door. I froze. After a few seconds, he turned and walked away. I didn't move for hours. The next morning, I called the delivery company to report it. They told me he'd been reassigned to another route weeks ago. So why was he here? I started noticing strange things around my property. My gate slightly open, cigarette butts near my trash cans, footprints in the dirt under my window. At first, I told myself I was overreacting. But then, the messages started. "You have a beautiful house." It came from an unknown number. I ignored it, thinking, spam. Then, another message. "You looked really peaceful last night." My stomach dropped. I texted back, "Who is this?" No answer. The next night, another text. "Don't worry, I'll stop by again soon." I called the police. They filed a report, told me to block the number and to keep my doors locked. Then, tap, 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 on the glass. I screamed and ran to the living room. My dog barked wildly, scratching at the door. Seconds later, I heard the door creak, the sound of it being pushed open. I hid behind the couch, phone trembling in my hand, whispering to 911. Through the shadows, I saw his outline in the hallway, tall, broad shoulders, hoodie pulled up. He was holding something shiny in one hand, a knife. He walked slowly, humming that same tune, whispering, "You never signed for your last package." I thought I was going to die. Just then, flashing blue lights filled the windows. The police. He froze, then bolted toward the back door. Officers stormed in seconds later, tackling him before he made it off the porch. When they cuffed him, I'll never forget what he said. He looked straight at me and whispered, "You would have loved the gift I brought tonight." They found so much evidence at his house it made me sick. Hundreds of photos of me, printed and labeled by date, screenshots of my social media, GPS routes from his truck showing how he'd been circling my neighborhood for weeks after being fired. Police said he'd broken into several homes before, always the same method. Deliver a few fake packages, get familiar with the customer, then start watching. He kept a notebook labeled My Routes, where each entry had names of women, their addresses, and creepy notes like, "Talked to her today, smiled back. Got a new camera near her window, looks perfect." It turned out those packages he brought me weren't mistakes. He'd bought them himself. He was sending them to me, to make me open the door, to build a connection. He later told police he thought we had something special, that I gave him signs. He's serving time now, 20 years for stalking, attempted burglary, and possession of an illegal weapon. But even after all this time, I still flinch when I hear a truck outside. I still double-check the locks every night, and whenever a delivery driver knocks, I wait a few minutes before opening the door, just to make sure they don't say, "You forgot to sign for your last package." When I rented my first apartment, I thought I got lucky. Cheap rent, nice area, fully furnished. But 3 weeks later, I found the room that wasn't on the floor plan, and I wish to God I never opened it. It started with a smell, not rotting food, not garbage, something wet, metallic, and faintly sweet. Like blood that's been cleaned but never gone. The smell came from the wall behind my bed. I even pulled the bed away, checked for leaks, nothing. But at night, the smell got stronger. Then one morning, I noticed something else. A crack in the paint, right near the outlet. When I pressed it, the wall moved, like there was space behind it. Curiosity got the better of me. I grabbed a flashlight and a screwdriver and started peeling the plaster away. Behind it wasn't brick or insulation. It was drywall screwed into wood, like someone had covered something intentionally. After a few minutes, I pried the whole panel off. Behind it was a narrow, pitch-black corridor, and at the end of that corridor, a door. At first, I thought it must be old storage, maybe from renovations. But something about that door felt wrong. It wasn't old. It was new, fresh paint, modern handle. I almost laughed. Maybe the landlord forgot to mention it. But when I tried the knob, it was locked. I should have stopped there. Instead, I went to the hardware store the next morning, bought a small lockpick set, and came back. It took me 20 minutes to get it open. The second the door creaked, a rush of cold air hit my face, like opening a freezer. My flashlight flickered as I stepped inside. It was a tiny room, maybe 6 by 8 feet, bare walls, concrete floor. But there was something in the middle, a single chair, and duct tape stuck to the floor around it. On the wall facing the chair, a camera, still recording. The little red light blinked. I froze. I reached for the camera, hit the playback button, and almost dropped it. The first clip was dated 5 days before I moved in. A man, tied to the chair, screaming, muffled by tape. A shadow moves across the screen, someone walking behind him whispering. Then the camera shakes, and the man goes still. My stomach twisted. There were 23 more clips. Each one showed the same thing. Different people, same room. I dropped the camera, ran out of the hidden hallway, slammed the wall panel back in place, and called 911. When the police arrived, they looked skeptical, until I showed them the footage. Their faces changed instantly. They radioed for backup. Within minutes, the whole building was crawling with officers. They told me to wait outside. About an hour later, one of the detectives came out and said something that still haunts me. "Ma'am, the previous tenant's been missing for months." Turns out the last person who lived in my unit was a 29-year-old man who vanished without a trace. His friends said he disappeared right after moving in. The landlord, Mr. Peterson, had filed no report. He told everyone the tenant skipped out on rent. But here's where it gets worse. The property records showed Peterson didn't even own the building. He'd been squatting in an inherited house next door, pretending to be the landlord. He'd been renting out that one unit, mine, over and over for years, Every few months, a new tenant would move in and then disappear. Police found fingerprints, blood residue, and pieces of torn fabric that matched missing person reports from 3 states. But there was one more thing: a live feed. Behind a panel in the basement, they found a computer. It was connected to cameras, one of them hidden in my smoke detector, and on the monitor was me, sleeping. When they raided Peterson's house that night, he wasn't there. He had already disappeared, left his truck running in the woods half a mile away. Inside were photos of every tenant who'd ever lived in my unit, sleeping, eating, brushing their teeth, all taken through hidden cameras. And on the passenger seat was a fresh roll of duct tape and a note. The next one will be quieter. They never found him. I moved out the next day. Even now, years later, every apartment I look at, I knock on the walls. I listen for hollow spaces, because somewhere out there, that man's still watching, still waiting, still looking for his next tenant.